Today, we are talking about something that every developer should know about, which is best practices in HTML. Writing HTML is not just about making the web page work. It's about writing clean, efficient, and well-structured code that is easy to read, maintain, SEO friendly, accessible to everyone, compatible across different browsers. So one of the most important best practices is using semantic tag instead of using generic tag, which comprises of div and span tag across the whole web page. So I'm going to show you an example of a code written with generic tag and another the same code written with semantic tag, right? So yeah, you can see right here, these are just basically two different divs with different information, but they are using generic elements. The major difference between semantic and generic HTML is basically it comprises of divs and span across the whole web page, while semantic tag allows you to distinguish different sections of your website. So why use semantic tag, you may ask? It is simply because using semantic tags helps improve your SEO. So Google search engine is able to understand your contents better. It also improves your accessibility, which means screen readers can interpret content correctly. And it also helps with readability, which means it is easier for developers to read and understand the structure of your code. So let's say you have a div and you fail to add the closing tag of the div. Browsers can sometimes help you guess the closing tag, right? And it is not the best to rely on. So make sure you always close your tag. So every image should have an alternative text, also known as alt for short. And this is because it helps with accessibility, meaning visually impaired users using screen readers. It helps with SEO, which means search engines use alt text to understand images. It helps with fallbacks if an image fails to load, right? So here's an image tag without an alt, and here's the same image tag with an alt added. Avoid using inline CSS and JavaScript directly in your HTML files. It simply makes your code harder to maintain, slower to load, and less reusable. Here is a bad example of what we are talking about, and here is the current way to do it. You can use this when need be, but it is highly advised that you only use it when you really need to and make it short and quick. This would be the correct way to do it. So you'd have your CSS in a separate file, and then you can import inside of your HTML and make use of it. A slow website basically drives users away. Here are a few tips that can help you optimize the performance of your website. Minimize HTML file sizes, use compressed images, minimize CSS and JavaScript, and also load scripts asynchronously inside of your HTML files. Now, this in return allows the web page to load without waiting for your script to finish. And that is it for today. Best practices in HTML. Now, just a recap of everything we talked about today. Use semantic HTML, keep your code organized and indented, close your tags properly, use alt for images, avoid inline CSS and JavaScript only when you need to. That is where you can use it. Optimize for performance and validate your HTML. Following these best practices will make your code cleaner, more efficient, and future-proof. If you find this tutorial helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. With that being said, I'll see you in the next one.